are discussing a very important topic in machine learning, artificial data synthesis. Sometimes our training samples may not be enough to train the data. Example, here the character classification, character recognition problem is there. When we are training our supervised learning algorithm, we have to train by giving different types of the images. In each and every images, we have to give some A's. This is A, this is lower letter A, different cursive letter A. We have to train by giving different backgrounds, the same A with the different backgrounds. In all these cases, our supervised learning algorithm should be ready to recognize the character A. For that, we want to increase the training samples. In machine learning problems, whenever we want to increase the training samples, either we can go and collect the training samples, and we have another option, we can artificially synthesize. Artificially, we can create the training samples. If we can create artificially training samples, and it is always not applicable for all the problems. We are telling this artificial synthesis is not applicable for all problems, but if it is applicable for your problem, if it is applicable for our problems, then we can reduce our time. Instead of getting the training samples from the real time, we can reduce our collection of the training samples time by simply using this synthesized training samples. How we can get the artificial synthesized data? We are looking for the same problem of photo OCR, photo optical character recognition. Here, for the convenience, I am taking the rectangular boxes. As we already said, we have to use the rectangular boxes, but for our convenience, I am representing by using square boxes. This is the real data. In this real data, I am giving A, B, C, D, E, F, G. But I am interested in getting the artificially synthesized data. Now we have many fonts available. Even you can observe, even in your MS Word also, there are many fonts available. Now the same data, when it is applied to different fonts, different types of A's are coming, different letters, different types of B's are coming. The same for the real time data, we are getting 4 more synthesized data samples. Now we can give these 5 training samples as input for our supervised learning. So this is how we get the artificial synthesized data. The left side example is real data, the right side example is synthesized data. How we synthesize the data? We synthesize the data by introducing the distortions. Left side, A is observed, and in this image we are representing this A by using a small square boxes. We are calling each square box as a pixel, and we are distorting this image. 16 A's are observed in the 16 images, and each image is different, but still our human eye can recognize this A. Now we want our supervised learning algorithm to get trained by using these 16 training samples. Now assume we have original audio in the speech recognition. We are assume that we are developing a supervised learning algorithm. It has to recognize your voice. When it is recognizing your voice, it has to recognize if there is any background noise also. It has to recognize. For that, we are using our original audio, and we are synthesizing that artificially. When that around that original audio, if there is any bad cell phone connection distortion, if there is any crowd distortion, if there is any machinery distortion, some ocean background, if there is any ocean distortion, we are adding all the distortions by using artificial synthesis. And this artificially synthesized data can be applied to our supervised learning algorithm Now finally it can detect your voice even if your voice is with the crowd data, the noise data of crowd. This is how we get the artificially synthesized data for our photo OCR problems and even for the speech recognition problems. Whatever, whenever you want to use the artificially synthesized data, if that particular concept is applicable for your machine learning problem, then you are saving your time. We can observe here in some cases it may be, if you are adding a distortion, we are getting the artificially synthesized data. It does not mean if you randomly add noise, some noise, you may get some 1,000 types of different examples. Here in the left side, A is same as right side A. Even though you added some random noise, there is no difference because it is not a distorted image. So similar image we are giving, this will be of no use. Our supervised learning algorithm treat all these images as same images. By adding a simple random noise may not give the proper artificially synthesized data. We have to remember that thing also. Before we are applying artificial synthesis, first we have to check whether our classifier, I am calling this problem as a classification problem because we are classifying. We have to check whether our classifier is low bias classifier or high bias classifier. If our classifier is high bias classifier, then there is no additional advantage to us by taking the data, additional data. If we give more training samples by artificial synthesis, then there will be no additional advantage. So at the first step only, we have to check if our classifier is high bias classifier, we have to make it as low bias classifier by adding extra features and by adding the number of hidden units if it is the case of the neural network. That thing, whether it is a low bias classifier and high bias classifier, we can know by using our learning curves we already discussed. After we are confirming our classifier is a low bias classifier, then only we have to think about the adding more data to our problem. If our classifier is low bias and high variance classifier, then adding more data will be definitely an additional advantage. And the second step we have to check, if we are having some 1,000 training samples, now we are expecting 10,000 additional training samples, how much time it will take to collect by ourselves. If you assume for each example it is taking 10 seconds, by this if we want to collect the 10,000 examples, for each example it is taking 10 seconds, then it is taking nearly 10,000 into 10, it is taking 1 lakh seconds. So instead of that, if we apply the crowdsource, there is another option. Crowdsource means from the crowd we are taking that data. Example, Amazon, Mechanical Turk, many companies are using this. If we are using these two methods, we are trying to collect by ourselves and we are using the crowd sources. By using these two methods also, if the time for getting the training samples is more, and then we can think about our artificial data synthesis. As we already discussed, artificial data synthesis, it may not be applicable for our machine learning problems, but if it is applicable for our problem, then we are lucky in the terms of our time is saved. Instead of collecting the data from ourselves and instead of by using the crowdsource also, we are getting a small amount of data, but by using the artificial synthesis in the small amount of time, we can get the huge amount of data. That is the power of artificial synthesis. So by using this artificial synthesis, we can train we can train our learning algorithm by using the more training samples and we can get the accurate results.